Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday, Labor Day, and we'll talk about Labor Day shortly in the Riv. And I guess, CJ, you got a little cleanup on aisle six. You got to hit.
Yeah, well, if you remember correctly, because we brought this up, on the day of Paul's interview, mayoral interview, before that interview, I sent to the Fall River Reporter, to Mike Sylvia, something to ask the mayor. And here was my message to him. Ask Paul Coogan why he signed the lease for the building that the city council shot down. EMS is not able to use capital money for expenses, and Paul is trying to circumvent a division of government. His response was, got it. And I put, they are now trying to say it is a license. And as we talked about on the show, a license is just permission, which he can't give. Now, from what I've been told, EMS is occupying the building already.
Of course, because listen, Paul is going to get his.
It's best company. It's my company. I'm trying to increase my business. But I will not be called a liar. Okay? No. So, Mike Sylvia, if you want to wonder why people are questioning the validity of Paul Coogan's interview, that's why. You are given a late-breaking question to ask, and you failed to ask it. So whose ass are you up?
Well, he took Coogan at his word, which now I guess they showed the interview, the little debate we had when he said that we weren't going to pay for Durfee. Coogan is a known pathological liar, and he's going to get his way. You know why? He's wrong. You can't. It's not a license. You can't spend any money without the appropriate. You can't alter the budget. We got all kinds of legal precedents. Talk to some very good lawyers. But the problem is the city council, those great defenders who say we're moving the city forward. We are moving the city forward. And we do it, that everything to move the city forward, and we don't care about political fallout and blah, 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 are full of crap. They're not going to do a damn thing about it. They're going to let Paul Coogan get his way, do something illegal again. If they go to court, they will win, but they won't go to court. That's the problem. They won't go to court. I talked to a highly respected attorney. He actually laughed and said, as he always says, only in Fall River they do things like this. And he said, well, they have to take him to court. If they don't, he gets to do it. It's just like if they don't prosecute you, somebody breaks into your house, you don't file charges, you drop the case, he gets away with it. So the problem is that it's not only Paul Coogan's fault for being, well, we all know he's a despicable liar. And he doesn't care what he does as long as he gets his way and his friends are enriched. This is the problem. And well, he didn't, they use that excuse. It's a license. It isn't a license. A license, as an attorney told me directly, a license is a permission. It's permission to do something. You get a license to drive. They're giving you permission to drive a motor vehicle. When you get a license to put an addition on your house, you can build the addition on your house. However, all licenses are subject to revocation, and therefore a particular thing. It's not a license. What he's doing is, as you said, a circumvention of the law. It's bullshit, and he is again, going to get away with it, just like he always does, because the council will not, under any circumstances, take this clown to court. They just let him do it and whine. They're going to complain and bitch and whine, and they're going to allow him to get away with it. Of course, they're occupying it. They might have an entire wing of the city. They might buy 3 or 4 more buildings, because remember, their business is creating money that they can use this with their own discretion. The taxpayers have nothing to do with it, because they think they earn that money for themselves, not for the city of Fall River. They are part of the emergency medical services of Fall River. They are a city department. Anything they generate should be for the taxpayer. That's why I'm an advocate for elimination of these funds. They're being used and abused.
Well, here's a question to ask.
Good afternoon.
These mayoral candidates. Would you support a merger of EMS and the fire department? And you should ask Paul Coogan specifically, why did you make a promise to the city council to merge EMS and the fire department and then revert and not do it?
You think he'll answer truthfully that he?
No, of course he won't.
And he was told by a current candidate for district attorney,
right,
not to do that.
That's
Why?
Right.
Because he
was making money.
Because he had a sweetheart deal with the EMS.
That's right.
And he'll say, "Well, it wasn't with this EMS. No, you were going to use the fact that one of your partner was the head of EMS in Fall River, and he's going to call all his other friends who are in EMS and all the other surrounding communities and get their business." Oh, you think that's a little collusion? I do. But this is the problem. Listen, there is no way you can get around this. Paul Coogan gets his way all the time. Nobody sues him. No, city council won't. That useless, conglomerate of cells, Kilby and Hart. I don't care what he does. There's absolutely no way they will ever hold him accountable, because they're getting something, and we know what Brad's getting. So
well, somebody told me that they believe, again, this is an allegation, that they believe that Brad already had the job at the housing authority.
He may.
I can't get confirmation on it, but
well, we can investigate that. But I mean, we knew what he was going to do, and he admitted it. He admitted it in front of witnesses. He admitted it in front of witnesses in the lobby of the city council and city hall. He admitted it. I questioned him on it, and he admitted it. So this is the problem. The problem is, what do we have here? We have a corrupt, a ultra corrupt government. We have an ultra corrupt city council. They will not do their job, and the only way you can get rid of them is vote them out. And I don't care if these other people, you say they're terrible. Well, they can't be any worse than these people, because they're selling you down a river. Now, it's obscene, and there's supposed to be some discussion of this at the next council meeting, but I doubt it. And since today's Labor Day, one of my favorite days, as I spent most of my adult life being an advocate for labor and for fairness to the worker, we will go into a little bit of my favorite book. Here it is, Labor's Untold Story. And as you can see, I read this so much, I had to put a put a special binder on it because it's falling apart. Read this book. It's an old book, but you'll be amazed. I'm going to read a couple of things here to just show you how these people really care. You know, we listen to all these wonderful bouquets being thrown out at these quote unquote developers and like they care about people. But I'm going to bring you a couple of things, and it's verbatim. Okay. This is the first one. When you think about rich people give a damn about us, this is a quote by Frederick Townsend Martin, one of the wealthiest men in the United States at the time in the 1800s. Quote, "It matters not one iota what political party is in power or what president holds the reins of office. We are not politicians or public thinkers. We are the rich. We own America. We got it. God knows how, but we intend to keep it if we can by throwing all the tremendous weight of our support, our influence, our money, our political connections, our purchased senators, our hungry congressmen, our public speaking demagogues into the scale against any legislature, any political platform, any presidential campaign that threatens the integrity of our estate. The class I represent cares nothing for politics. In a single season, a plutocratic leader hurled his influence and his money onto the scales to elect a Republican governor on the Pacific coast and a Democratic governor on the Atlantic coast. We are the rich, and we will never give up our power." That's what they think of you, okay? And that's what these developers and Coogan's friends are doing to you. And now we'll give you the other side, what the result of this is historically. And it's going to hit very close to home. As a matter of fact, it's going to hit home. And now listen to the date. On October 18th, 1883, Thomas O'Donnell, a mule spinner in Fall River, Massachusetts, testified before the Senate Committee on Labor Capital Relations. This is some of the questioning. Quote, "I have a brother who has 4 children besides his wife and himself. All he earns is $1.50 a day. He works in the ironworks in Fall River. He only works about 9 months out of 12. There is generally 3 months a year of stoppage, and his wife and his family have all they have to support the year on his salary of $1.50 a day. It does not stand to reason that those children and himself can have natural food and be naturally dressed. His children are often sick, and he has to call in a doctor." O'Donnell was asked how he supported his family of 4 on $133 a year. He replied, "I got a couple of dollars worth of coal last weekend, and the wood I picked up myself. I goes around," and he said goes around. I was in there with a shovel and picks up clams and wood. What do you do with the clams? Eat them. I don't get to sell them, but just to eat for the family. That is the way my brother lives mostly. He lives close by. How many live that way down there in Fall River? Answer, I could not count them. They are so numerous, I suppose there are thousands down there. On $150 a year? Answer, they live on less. This is Fall River. Sound familiar? Sound about rent? Now the passage on that little section on rent. And for the privilege of living in slum areas, this is in Chicago, American workers were forced to pay $10 and even $15 a month for rent, out of the meager average of $7.50 to $8 a week. Such rentals assured landlords of exorbitant returns. And then another factory work owner, millionaire, was asked, why he treated his workers so badly, and he said his reply was, "I treat my workers like the machines in my factory. I use them until they break down, and I cast them out into the street." And another millionaire who owned mines said, "I would rather lose two men than one mule because the mules are more valuable." This is what you got. These are the people that tell you they have your best interests at heart. They all start making money and they forget where they came from. You're just another guy that's going to go around and pick up clams and wood. They can say anything they want, but it's all bullshit. Because this is the reality. And as it said, Thomas O'Donnell testified in 1838, very close to 200 years ago. Very close. Not much has changed in the city of Fall River. I wonder if one of Fiola's ancestors was in charge of redevelopment then. I gotta wonder. I really do. I have to wonder. Because, it kills me. All I ever do is complain. Now, in next meeting, they're supposedly gonna bring up this lease, and it's not. Look, it's called, it's called, and one of a guy who I negotiated against, but was a friend, and was a good city administrator, Bob Connors, once said, "It's three-card Willie and the master of the fast shuffle." This is what Coogan does. Oh, we can't get a lease, we'll call it a license. Oh, you can't call it a license, we'll find something else to call it, but I'm getting my way. Remember the Armory?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, this is the thing. And that's why everybody's whining about it. You don't want to debate. All he's going to do is lie. And nobody's going to hold his feet to the fire. Is anybody going to ask him? You gave him a question to ask him about this lease. Is anybody going to ask him, when we read his position on public safety, like what a great job he's doing, why it took 800 calls to the rail trail before they did anything? Is that supporting public safety? I don't think so. That's not even paying attention to public safety. You think that's going to be asked at a debate? Debates are BS. Bring your candidate.
Well, at this point, you're only going to have two people at the debate. Paul Coogan, if he doesn't answer questions, and Gabe Amaral. Carlos isn't showing up. Vendel's not showing up. And Chris Sylvia has withdrawn from the race.
Oh yeah, we should have reminded her, but that's true. And didn't we say on a show? Didn't I say on a show? I think he's in a wrong business. He's really not cut out.
And we also said that we believe that Chris's candidacy was to siphon off votes.
Yeah.
And you will notice the withdrawal from the race is after
the
mail-in ballots went out.
Yep.
That's 4,000 ballots out there. The damage is already done.
To a big degree.
Right. The damage is already done. People can't go back and say, well, he's not running now, so I'm going to change my vote. Then there's rumors that he's changed his mind again. But that's just a rumor. I don't think he'd do that.
Well, I mean...
because then he'd lose all credibility of any kind.
Well, he fundamentally doesn't have much credibility left now anyway because he withdrew.
Right.
I mean... But, in a way, I kind of have to give him a little bit of respect. I think he realizes that he's not cut out for this job. A lot of people won't do that. Example, number one, Paul Coogan.
Right.
Paul Coogan couldn't be a principal of a school, and he thinks he can run a city, and he is running it into the ground. But he took the job for the money and the power.
That's right.
I know a lot of people like that. I knew guys in the fire department that took promotions that they were not capable of doing the job. They took it.
Coogan did that.
Yeah, Mike Coogan did that. No way, and he lasted 13 days. But the thing is, I remember somebody. I'm the only guy I ever saw in my 38 and a half years on a fire department that refused a promotion. He was a captain, and he was a good captain. He was a company commander. And he was on the district chief's list, and he was acting district chief because when chiefs go on vacation, they put the people who have passed the promotional exam in line for experience in a car. And he came in one day and came to my office, and he said, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, sure. He said, can I take my list off the promotion list and take my name off the acting list? I said, yeah, you can. Of course you can do that. You can refuse the promotion that's on a civil service exam and say, I will accept or I will not accept this promotion. And as far as the acting list, you can just say, I don't want to do it anymore. So I said, why? He said, I can't take the responsibility. He said, I started smoking. I never smoked in my life. I'm smoking now. I go to work. I go to a fire. I come back. I'm up all night wondering if there's going to be a rekindle, if I got all the hot spots. I'm always worried about the decisions I make at a fire. And I can't take it. And he did. And he took his name off the list, and he served out the rest of his career. And I got to give him kudos. Because I know a lot of guys that were terrible chiefs, couldn't run a fire, could not run a fire, and they took the paycheck. But that's the thing. So I got to give them a little credit in saying, well, something, I'm not cut out for this stuff. I don't think I'm going to, I thought I could do this, but politics is as we said on the show and told them, this is not a game for the the faint of heart. I'm sorry. You got it.
No question about it. No question about it.
This
and we've been in this for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very long.
We see these plans right at the outset.
That's right. I've been here so long. I saw O'Donnell do that testimony at front of the Senate, 1838. No, I'm only kidding.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you've got Carlos Caesar, Paul Coogan, and Dave Amaro. I'm not even giving Vendel the honor of mentioning him anymore. Those are the three candidates you have. Okay? As soon as Chris withdrew, Gabe came out with a statement, a diatribe, a long statement about how wonderful it is. And, he was a great guy. At least he put his hat in the ring. This is the reason why people don't put their hat in the rings. Because Fall River politics is worse than Chicago politics. It's worse than New York. It's worse than New York politics.
It sounds like
And let me tell you something. I have a great deal of respect for Gabe Amaro. I've known him for many years. I do not think he will be a good mayor. I'm going to tell you right now, he is currently serving an elected office as the state committeeman to the Republican Party to Massachusetts. Guess how many meetings he's been to? One.
Good guess.
And that was to oust Jim Lyons as as the Mass GOP committee chair. He has not been back since. Well, my kids have baseball, my kids have football, my kids have dance, my kids have plays. How the hell is a man with 6 children? I've even heard he may be getting 2 more to make it 8. So, and he was asked this question, supposed to manage the city. Well, my daughter is 18. She can watch them every so often. But I'll have to hire a nanny. You expect the people of Fall River to pay for that? I think it's laudable that you're making a go as a single parent. I do not think that this would be the time to run for mayor. I do not believe so. Also, your responses were not indicative of a good plan. I think that a better plan could have been vocalized at the Flint meeting. Carlos did a good job. Carlos vocalized the plan. Carlos was right down to the dollars and cents. And then you had Chris go, well, I can't disagree with Carlos. I can't disagree with these other candidates. After Paul left you swinging in the breeze.
Well, listen, I got to disagree. You know, I got nothing against Bruma. I don't know him that well. It was a nice gesture on his part to throw bouquets, but to me, you know, you don't throw bouquets at people who didn't fight the fight.
That's right.
Ernie Ladera, yeah, good one, Stevie. You're going back into the head because he didn't throw it. He threw his hat in the ring and then took it out before he got in the ring. That's not fighting the fight. And I will now, because since it's Labor Day, we get all the greats in here. Great guy for labor. From now, we're going to get something that hung in the mayor's office for the short time that Dan Bogan was the acting mayor, because this was one of his favorite quotes, and it is mine. And one day I gave him the end of that quote in some state. He said, "Oh, you know that quote?" I said, "I love that quote. It hangs in my house too." And he said, "Oh man, that's it. This is from Theodore Roosevelt, the man in the arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but he does actually strive to do the deeds. Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be among those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. It's the people who are in the fight. When I ran a union, they tried to pass me over for captain, for chief. I had to go to court virtually almost to get those jobs because of my union activity. I didn't choose to become a politician. I chose to become a union leader, and I fought for everybody who I liked or disliked. And this is the thing. You can't give him credit for throwing his hat in the ring and then yanking his papers before the fight started. I give him credit for realizing that he's not suited for the job he's running for, but in the political arena, that is a very rare happening. You don't see that happen. Most politicians are total incompetence, know they're total incompetence, and just want to get a job so they can get rich, like Paul Coogan. I'm just a vice principal. I've been a mayor for 6 years, but I'm just a vice principal. I don't have to learn anything. I can say I'm not good with numbers. I just didn't hire somebody to explain the numbers. I'm not good with this. I don't know anything about pot. I deflect everything. I hide everything. I said I'm transparent, and I'm not. I'm going to say I'm good for public safety, but 800 calls it took to get on a rail trail. Sorry. I mean, politics is the area that you see the most incompetence. I mean, we got people in Congress and in the Senate who are fundamentally not 5 cans short of a 6-pack. They're like 30 cans short of a 6-pack.
Like Pocahontas.
Yeah, I mean, they got
like Ed Markey.
Yeah.
Like Jake Oakenclaw.
Yeah, you mean like I'm going to run on term limits, Marky, that's been in there like for now, what, 30 years?
Yep, exactly.
Oh, I'm running on term limits. Give me one term, and I'm going to be out of there. And that was like, I don't know, 5 terms ago. So,
Right.
And they get 6-year terms in the Senate. In case you think that's 2 years, not Congress. But this is the problem we have, and this is the problem that we have. You know, Ernie, remember, Ernie Ladera. Yeah, there's a classic example. He didn't make him, but at least he did get his hat in the ring. He spent a lot of money. He had more signs than anybody I ever saw. He had his own jingle. And as an aside, he was the father-in-law of the former superintendent of schools, Jimmy Gibney. But he didn't make it through the primary. No, you're right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're not kidding. And that's true. And Roosevelt was unique because he became a politician after he led the charge up San Juan Hill. He was a very frail child, had asthma, and became put a boxing ring in the White House. Not a ballroom. He put a boxing ring in there. Also brought the judo champion of Japan from Japan and let him live in the White House for a year and give him judo lessons. The man was a true Renaissance man, a man that was vitally savage and mentally civilized. He's my favorite president, followed very closely by Abraham Lincoln, who was also pretty vitally savage and civilized, because he was a great wrestler. A lot of people don't realize that Abraham Lincoln was a good wrestler. But these people did things outside. Lincoln was a lawyer, very good orator, as I said. But this is the problem. We got these people. I give him credit for throwing it. No, I don't give him credit. I give him credit for realizing he can't do the job, but he should have realized it beforehand. If you delete everybody from your Facebook page who says something you don't like, it's not a stretch to logically look at politics, and especially in the city of Fall River, and think that you can run for political office without having your feelings hurt if you're prone to having your feelings hurt very easily. So, but I give him credit for recognizing that and saying, I can't do this. But as you said, he's affected the election already adversely, CJ.
No question about it. No question about it. And again, as we said at the beginning of this campaign cycle, we firmly believe that Chris's campaign was meant to dilute the voting pool. And there's nothing to say that's still not the case.
You're right. And I truly believe that we have to remember something, that, his votes will be recorded. But remember, when people look at this election and they see how many votes were cast against Paul Coogan, those votes have to be now said, well, those votes are going to go against Coogan in a final, or the majority of them will go against Coogan. So that has to be put into context, because, as you said, Coogan might win, or maybe he won't. But you look at how many people showed up, and hopefully a lot. But every vote that he got is a vote against Paul Coogan. It may not be a vote for any of the candidates, but it's a vote against Paul Coogan.
But that's not going to help.
No, well, it's gonna. I mean, if people put it in context, maybe it'll get them to go to the polls and then weigh in on their choice, because then we'll have it down to 2 people.
And then you'll get the idiots who'll vote for Chris just because they want to vote for Chris, knowing that he's out of the race.
Well, CJ, it's Fall River.
I know.
So as my attorney friend always says, it's fall rubber. Stevie, what are humans important? No, that's so true, Stevie. That's so true. They get a taste of the power and the influence, and they quickly be. They do. Uh, yeah. Well, as the old adage goes, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is what happens to these guys. They've never had any power in their life. They were always part of the herd, and then all of a sudden they become powerful. They have a title, and they go crazy. Other people that were leaders in they were leaders in whatever they did before they became politicians are not as prone to that because they used to the fact they were maybe the captain of some team, or they were an integral part of something, and they were successful. I found that people who were successful at things before they became politicians are less prone to become delusionary when they get some power, and power hungry. Because I mean, just look at some of the biggest loonies you got on a national level. What was AOC before she was a congresswoman? A bartender. Not that that's an aspersion on bartenders, but she wasn't a rocket scientist. Okay, so now she's going to go in there, and now she gets to pontificate about all the world's problems like she actually has an idea. And she didn't educate herself. Not that some people that went to Congress and educated themselves about politics don't know politics. What they know how to do is get themselves rich, be politicians on partisan politicians. Same thing with Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar would not be in Congress if she didn't live in an area that looks like a suburb of Somalia. She gets elected because they vote for her because she's from Somalia, and that's the reality. Just like the guy that's running in Minnesota. Why? That's probably there are more people from Somalia in Minnesota than any other place on the planet, except Somalia. Just like Chicago. I don't know if the stats are still true, but Chicago is the place that they have more Polish people than any other place in the world except Poland. They just happen to migrate to Chicago. They're very high Eastern European, populations. There are a lot of Lithuanians and a lot of Eastern European countries. They have a lot of that in Chicago. They've got a lot of ethnicity in Chicago too. A very diverse place. But yeah, you're right, Steve. You hit it right on the head. They get some power for the first time in their life, and they go drunk with it. They're nuts. They go absolutely bananas with power, and you can't come back. Once you lose it, once you lose your compass, you're lost. Very rarely do they find that compass again. And it is what it is. So he's out of the race, but 4,000 ballots were sent out. And as CJ's always saying, are we going to get 4,000 ballots back?
That's the big question.
You're right. And the question I have is, if we don't get them all back, or nearly all of them, why would anybody request a ballot that they weren't going to use? It's okay if you say, well, the guy didn't vote because he's too lazy to get out of his house. He was too lazy to even request a absentee ballot. But when you get one, mail-in ballots,
almost automatically.
So you'd say, if you requested the damn thing, you should see a very high percentage of those ballots come back in. But then again, do we get back to the trust? Do you trust your government to run this election cleanly? We will see.
Hey, Trump doesn't trust it.
No. And I don't, like I said, when you look at states that say they're against voter ID, they're against,
Massachusetts.
yeah, they're against checking the rolls. Massachusetts, they don't care. They want an election. What are the credentials of Al Green?
Yep.
You mean Kamala's friend, Al Green? That Al Green? Well, the one who was Kamala's godfather was one of the most powerful political figures and got her into office, basically, got her into politics. Listen, you got to show an ID to get on an airplane, unless you're an illegal. You gotta show an ID to buy cigarettes. I think I don't smoke, but
you have to have an ID to buy marijuana, cigarettes, booze, airline tickets. To board a plane, you got to have an ID.
I had to show my ID at the bank to give them money.
Exactly.
They showed somebody. I had a new clerk there. She asked me for my ID, and I was paying my mortgage. It's like, lady, I'm giving you a check drawn on this bank. Why would you worry about if I'm really the person? Because all you got to do is make sure my account can cover the check. I'm giving you the money.
Right.
It's like, oh, we need to have your ID because we have to update our information about you. I said, what is this, Nazi Germany? We're gonna have I got a file. Oh, it's for our online stuff. I said, I don't do anything online. I'm old school. I do everything. I do as little online as possible. I don't trust online stuff. Never did. Even with layers of security, I was hacked and deeply hacked once. And but I mean, like you said, but you're going to vote. The most important function an American citizen has to shape our government. And you have these worthless, gerrymandered states who are complaining about the Republicans doing what they've been doing for a zillion years. And remember, and what state?
Massachusetts, where gerrymandering began.
Yeah, but there's no need to. We got zero representation. But who started gerrymandering? What state, CJ? Massachusetts.
Mass of two shits.
That's right. Oh, that one. Okay. Yeah, look at. He's got the IQ of a. I don't know what he's. Yeah. They all claim to be political activists, and they all claim to be. I marched with Dr. King, and I did this, and I did. But they're all a disgrace to Dr. King, because Dr. King clearly stated that he wanted people judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. No, I agree, Alphas. I don't trust any of that stuff. I don't like my information put out anywhere. When I get phone calls or something like that, then I hang up on them most of the time. But they ask me for information. I said, send me a letter. Yeah, I'll read it. I don't want to hear I don't want to hear it. Actually, if you listen to one of my other phones, my answering machine says, if you're a telemarketer, don't waste your time or mine. That's the end of my message, So I don't I don't give any information out that I don't absolutely have to. And this society,
I tell them I'm a Nigerian prince.
you're a Nigerian prince. Okay. Yes. But
Send me $1,000.
yeah, the Al Green, it was waving his cane and every yeah. I'm sorry. That guy, I don't look. He's a political tick. He's been in Congress so long that we could probably get a snapshot of him without a cane. That's how long he's been in Congress. He was there. I think they might have been bringing him in a stroller when he got there, but he's been there forever. And they're all quote unquote activists. You know, I only consider, we're doing pretty good, Jay. We had a nice discussion about a little Fall River history, about a guy in 1838 talking about living on like $150 a year, working in a factory, and about how the rich people don't care about, and with quotes about what they said about the working class. And so we're having a good Labor Day, and it is what it is. But we have to get people to the polls. It's that simple. I'm very disappointed in this election cycle. This is a critical election cycle, and we see Coogan just blatantly violating a law, and nobody's. I mean, I know that Carlos went before the council and ripped the council and him, putting the blame justifiably so on the council. We see Coogan now changing it to from lease to license, and this is what his brain trust over at the law department does, figuring out loopholes for him to violate the law. That's not the kind of law department I'm paying for. But then again, the law department just said they're not our lawyers.
That's right.
So
they represent the mayor.
If they're Paul Coogan's lawyers, they should be paid by Paul Coogan out of his pocket.
That's right.
If they're not representing the city of Fall River, they should not be in a nice office in the government center that says City of Fall River Law Department. It doesn't say Paul Coogan. It doesn't say Huey, Dewey, and Louie. It doesn't say, Law Dog on it.
It says Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Yeah, exactly. And well, maybe now there'll be a real estate sign selling some market rate housing too, because since the head of our law department is getting into the market rate housing business, everybody gets rich with Paul, including Paul. But how do you stop it? Council step up and sue him about this lease license. It won't hold up in court. It will not hold up in court.
Well, the thing is, any way you look at it, EMS is going to have to come before the city council again, asking for money to pay for the lease.
License.
Whatever. License, lease.
Remember, you got to Paul. You know how Paul is. You said that number was one off, but he's going to call it a look at. It's not a license.
I know.
It's not a license. Who bestows licenses? We just said from a very Yeah, it is. And but who gives out licenses? CJ.
The Registry of Motor Vehicles?
Yeah, that's right.
The health department?
It's got to give out licenses, right?
Right.
So he's going to say that the city of Fall River is going to give that license, not a lease. So therefore, the city of Fall River is going to charge this guy. They're not charging him; they're paying him. So it's not look, it's crazy.
Well, let's go. You want to know how crazy it is? Who did we pay for our debates? No one.
No one. Yeah, no one.
Did we feed the audience?
No.
No. So according to Mike Sylvia, he's already dished out over $1,000 on this debate. Jordan Sylvia is donating the pizza. Scotty Lopes from Scotty's Pub is donating the chicken wings. The doors open at 5:30 for two mayoral candidates. You're not going to get any information. You're going to get the order of information that the Fall River Reporter wants you to have. And that's it.
All our questions were submitted by people, not us, at our debates.
That's right.
We had people submit their questions.
And some were stupid.
Yeah, some were stupid. You're right, but we kind of had to, put them in order of what we felt were
a priority.
Were a priority to ask these candidates. But all and our debates were very, very well attended, very well attended. But as I said, I'm not a big, I think the debates were the citizens' questions, which were important. They were not edited. They were unedited. They were reviewed not only by CJ and I, but by other people. We had people involved in a debate process with us, that moderators and stuff, that looked at the questions, and we discussed them and we prioritized them. And then we had them put to the debaters. And it didn't cost us anything except our time. And I think they were, really good debates. Rapley's gone now, but to me, that was our great debate, because CJ and I are big proponents of the House of Commons in England, where they start yelling at each other and have fight. Although they're not going to beat Mexico. Did you see that video? Yeah. Did you see that video in Mexico where they literally got into a physical altercation in the middle of a meeting, but over the cartels too. But our debates were held in nice venues. They were always at BCC, and we held them at places that Morton, BCC.
Yep.
We had good venues. We had good crowds. I think they were good debates. But I prefer candidates to knock on my door, come walk into my yard, and talk to me. Debates are always restricted, no matter how good they are. Debates, you only have a minimum amount of time. You cannot ask follow-up. You only got a minute to rebut. That's about enough time to get a sentence out. And to me, it's not the best form unless you have a town hall where people can just walk up to a mic and ask a question, ask a follow-up question, and stuff like that. I think, and especially in a local election, and especially in this local election where you have a 6-year record of non-performance and circumventing the law and being lack of transparency, you got a guy with this abysmal record. There is his record is not debatable. He can send out his push card and say, I'm for public safety. You're not. The fire department's been undermanned since the day you took office. And then when we had the catastrophe, you gave them money, and as soon as the state gave you money, you took your money back. You were not committed to public safety. As far as the police department, it took 800 calls before we sent somebody to straighten out the rail trail. Is that a commitment to public safety? I'm sorry. Your commitment may be to EMS and building their wealth and the size of their department at the expense of the taxpayer, not providing emergency service, providing non-emergency services like free rides and blood pressure tests like visiting nurses do and private ambulance services do. But that's not what I pay my taxes for. I pay for an emergency medical service. So his record is non-debatable. It's abysmal. And it's up to the candidates to campaign against Paul Coogan with how they're going to fix what he's done. And to me, there's only one candidate so far that's been doing that. And that's
I
part
agree.
of the visa.
I agree. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. I'm going to let you get back to your clam boils for the end of the season clam boil. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday, the day before the infamous two-person debate. Have a great night.
Ah.